Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady here, and we're back in Far Harbour for the next part of the Science of Fallout series and the section of that which covers the creatures of Far Harbour. So we are talking about the erratic and devolved radstags today. You might remember that I've done a video on radstags from the Commonwealth, which I'll link in the video for you if you want to see that if you've not seen it yet. But I chose to cover these guys separately because they are really quite different from the radstags that you see in the Commonwealth, and the likelihood is that they originate from a different species. So you can see them here. So we've got an erratic radstag doe, an erratic radstag. So the males, they have antlers, the females don't. And then we've got the devolved radstag with the antlers, and then a devolved radstag doe that is lacking antlers, and they also have the appearance that you would expect to see from the glowing variant enemies. So the distinguishing feature, as you can see, is the teeth. So these deer have very elongated canine teeth, or fangs, whatever you want to call them. And that is something that there are certain species of deer that do have. So trying to kind of think of which is the most likely that these guys have originated from. So their Fallout Wiki, if you look it up, suggests that these are Asian water deer, but I'm not entirely convinced that's the case because the Asian water deer don't have antlers. Neither the stags or the does have antlers in Asian water deer, whereas these guys obviously do. The other possible deer that looks like the Asian water deer is the musk deer, but they're a bit different again, and they also lack the antlers. But there's another species that has these elongated fangs, tusks, canine teeth, and also the males have antlers, and that's the muntjac deer. Their faces do look a wee bit more like muntjac deer as well, to my mind. Muntjac deer are native to Asia, and they're found across the kind of southeast of mainland Asia, so India, southern China, Vietnam, Indonesia, Taiwan and Sri Lanka. And there are some populations in the lower part of the Himalayas as well, and invasive populations that have been introduced into the UK and in Japan as well. So muntjac deer, which is Muntiacus species, are a small deer species where the males have these tusks and elongated canine teeth, and they have small antlers as well. They are known to have these prominent kind of glands on their faces right in front of their eyes, which is called the preorbital glands. Preorbital just means in front of the eye. That's all that means. But they can open quite wide, so you can see them kind of opening up sometimes, and the glandular tissue inside, and you couldn't really see it on the pictures that are on the wiki, but they do seem to have this, you could almost think it was like teeth. Maybe it's supposed to be their teeth. Hard to say really, but it could also be representative, they've either got holes in their cheeks or representative of these well, actually, yeah, the pictures don't really show it, but there you can kind of see, don't turn your head, you can kind of see there's a little kind of opening just in front of the eyes. So certainly from my kind of point of view, I would say the muntjac deer is the most likely candidate for the origin of these guys, which is different from the other radstags in the Commonwealth, as we discussed, that came from the white-tailed deer, which is the most common deer species in North America. And water deer are a separate genus, and they have much larger kind of tusks. They also don't have antlers. The Chinese water deer have been introduced to the UK and France and are native to China and Korea. They do resemble the musk deer in appearance, but they are in the Cervidae family, same as muntjacs and same as your white-tailed deer, your red deer, your fallow deer, sika deer, all these other deer species that we see. And musk deer are not considered true deer and are in their own family, Moschidae, and are probably closer in relationship to Bovidae, so cattle species. Again, we have talked about the Brahmin previously, who are also in the Bovidae family. And that species is also native to Asia and particularly lives in the Himalayas and in the area of the mountains there. And they also have the elongated canine teeth or fangs, and they also lack antlers as well. So if you look at them side by side, the water deer and the musk deer do look very similar, but they're not that closely related. The water deer tend to be referred to in the West as vampire deer because of the fangs. That's a name that people have given them. But the interesting thing is that none of these deer species are native to the United States, nor are they really known to have been introduced into the wild as an invasive species in the United States. At least in the real world, they're all kind of native to Asia, and they have been known to be introduced in parts of Europe and the UK, which is in Europe, but not necessarily in the United States. So there is a possibility that they're here because they have come from a private collection or a zoo collection somewhere. We know there was a national park here on the island and things like that, and you know, there was a lot of kind of tourist facilities around here, so it could be that there was a zoo collection, and then when the bombs fell and loads of people died, and they've just kind of been left to fend for themselves, and they've thrived and then been mutated by the radiation and the fog to become what they are. Which is similar we talked about when we talked about the rad scorpions, and the emperor scorpion was believed to have come about from pet stores and people with these scorpions as pets because they're not native to the United States, but they did well after the bombs fell, and that's kind of why they're everywhere. So the same sort of thing could have happened with these guys. Because I certainly know a sort of zoo park that I volunteered at when I was at university. They had quite a lot of deer. So we had reindeer, we had red deer, fallow deer, and there was a small group of shika deer, which also come from Asia, sort of particularly known to come from Japan. And there was also a small population of muntjac deer, and they're really small. You know, they're kind of up to their shoulders. They're probably, I'm trying to remember, maybe about 2.5, 3 feet tall. They're very, very small deer, but they're quite cute. So they've followed the rules of kind of mutation that we've established. So they're deer, so they're large ruminants, which means that they've evolved to have 2 heads, unlike the bighorn sheep, which are small ruminants, so they've still had 1 head. And like the other deer, they have evolved these 2 extra little legs that just kind of hang there as well. So fairly kind of typical to what we've seen from the other radstags. And you can see there's a real distinct lack of fur markings and just kind of bare skin. So like a lot of furred animals, they've kind of lost a lot of that because of the radiation, which we know that's a thing that can happen because it damages the hair follicles and stops hair from continuing to grow. So let's say we've got the erratic radstags, and then we've got the devolved radstags, which are the glowing versions. So the erratic radstags are a little bit tougher than the basic radstag, doe and radstag. Their stats are higher, and they also are much more aggressive. So when you find the radstags in the Commonwealth, most of them, especially the lower level ones, are much more likely to just run away from you rather than attacking you. But these guys will attack as soon as they detect you and they see you. They will come after you and they will fight you. So something to be aware of. And the devolved radstags, the glowing version, are stronger than the glowing radstags from the Commonwealth, and again, they are really aggressive and they will attack you as soon as they detect you, unlike the ones in the Commonwealth. So they're much more aggressive and they are a bit tougher than the varieties that you've seen in the Commonwealth. So, you know, not the toughest enemy you're going to come across, but they still can be a force to be reckoned with. So, you know, you need to be prepared for stumbling across these guys on the island. Oh, hello, you're standing very close to your face there. So it's interesting, and it's these fangs. So this probably isn't it's not a mutation, because it is something that exists in deer species in the real world. But it's kind of unusual because none of them are native to the United States, and they're not particularly known to have populations. I mean, obviously some animals have been taken from their native environments and taken to other countries and released into the wild, which is always a problem for the wildlife that already lives there. It's been known to happen time and time again. Just ask Australia what they think about rabbits. And it's been seen, I know, here in the UK, when they closed down, when they banned using real fur for clothing, and they shut down the mink farms, instead of responsibly kind of dealing with the animals, they just released them into the wild when they weren't native here, and almost got the water vole extinct, and they did a lot of damage to the native species and the ecosystem and things. So it can be a problem, but it makes sense that, with the bombs falling and everything kind of going to hell, that if there was private zoo collections, or people keeping exotic species as pets or that kind of thing, that things might then happen, and we've got these species that aren't really supposed to be here, but they've ended up here because the world has ended. And we tackle a bit of that in Nuka World as well, which I think is the first time really we've seen a proper zoo environment in Fallout is at Nuka World. It's not something that I remember from any of the other games, and it's interesting because I know there is, or at least there was, a zoo at the Mirage in Las Vegas, where they had the white tigers and things like that, obviously from Siegfried and Roy. So there are zoos in some of the places that we visited in Fallout, but it's not something that's ever really been included until Nuka World. So kind of interesting. So there is, there's things there, and that's that's quite a fun one to explore. And then you get some of the kind of weird creatures that have evolved over there and that have been created over there. So that's a whole other section of this this series that we're going through. But I do like the idea of having something different appearing on the island. Again, it fits with the fact that, it's kind of the same as the Commonwealth, but also quite different. And we know that we're in a different state, we're in a different location, because the wildlife and the creatures that you stumble across are different. And obviously we know the fog has an impact as well, not just because of radiation, it seems, but there seems to be other factors as well that are creating some unusual specimens in this part of the world, and I think it's really, really interesting. And I really like the design of these guys as well. The glowing is really effective when all their teeth are glowing and things. I think that's what that's supposed to be on the side there. It's just not kind of animating like it should, but the glowing eyes and the glowing ears and everything. And then these guys, they just look horrible and look quite uncomfortable. But, that's what you expect to see. Oh, just as the sun's coming up, so I'll turn the torch off and can see them in a better light now that the sun's coming up. It's actually quite a nice clear day for Far Harbour. That's unusual. But yeah, so that's the erratic radstags and the devolved radstags. So a new variety of kind of vampire-ish deer that probably aren't a native species to the US, but they're here and they're creepy, and I think they're very, very interesting. So it's good to see that there's new and varied enemies here, because it keeps the game from getting stale as well, that we've got something different going to a new location and things are a bit different and a bit more interesting. So hopefully you found that interesting, and as always I love to hear your thoughts in the comments about these creatures, or if you learned anything that you didn't know. Let me know, and I'll see you next time with some more weird and wonderful creatures from Fallout. So see you soon. Bye.